Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Laptops Aren't for Laps. Quick outline of what we'll be covering today. Start with an intro about me. That'll be super quick. It'll also give time for a few more people to join the room because some people are always just a couple minutes late. Then I'll get into the main content. That should take about 25 minutes, followed by the special offer and then Q&A. So very quickly about me, my name's R. Blank. I am the founder and CEO of Shield Your Body. I taught on the faculty at the University of Southern California Viterbi School of Engineering. And along with my father, I was co-author of the book Overpowered about the health effects of EMF. And this follows, SYB follows a 20-year career in software engineering. As we say in the name, SYB is all about helping you shield your body from EMF radiation. And when it comes to shielding your body from EMF, it's all about minimizing your exposure. There are two ways to do that. The first is to minimize use, and the second is to maximize distance. And for either tactic to have maximal impact, you first need to be aware of the biggest sources of EMF in your life that you can control. And that's an important point because we're all surrounded by EMF from more and more sources in our lives. Some of these are not in our control, at least not in our immediate control, like the cell towers that you see pictured here on this slide. It's good to be aware of sources like this, but we shouldn't stress too much about them because there's not much we can do about them, at least in the immediate term. So instead, you want to focus on things that are under your control. And the good news is it's how we manage the tech that's closest to us that can matter the most in terms of our health. In other words, even though a lot of sources of EMF are out of our control, controlling the stuff we can control can have a massive impact on our exposure. Minimizing your use of EMF technology is the absolute best way to protect yourself from EMF, because then you're not exposed to it in the first place. And minimizing use means, just like it sounds, using your EMF emitting technology less. While minimizing your use is the best protection against EMF, you can only do it so much. And that's because we all use and rely on tech, EMF emitting tech, for almost everything, from doing our jobs to staying in touch with our families and our friends to entertainment. So you can reduce your usage, but you can't eliminate it entirely. And that's where maximizing distance come in. And what I mean by maximizing distance is to create as much space between you and your EMF emitting technology as possible. Why does that matter so much? Well, take a look at this chart. And the reason is the power of EMF diminishes exponentially with distance. And that's really important. The exponential reduction in power of the exposure. So every time you double the distance between you and your EMF tech, you're actually cutting the power by 75%. And that's why every inch matters. Now, I spend a lot of time talking about cell phones. Because given the nature of technology and how we use it, cell phones tend to be a really significant source of people's EMF radiation exposure in their normal daily lives. But there's another source that can be a big one in our lives, and that's what today's about: laptops. Oh, sorry, I skipped a slide. And that's especially true if you use them in your labs. Now, today I'm going to explain why that is. So, and over the next few slides, I'm actually going to compare laptops to cell phones so you have a benchmark for reference. So the first thing to understand is that laptops emit the same type of EMF radiation as cell phones. The first type is called radio frequency, or RF. RF is a type of EMF that comes from wireless communication. So any device that communicates wirelessly emits radio frequency EMF. Our laptops are actually multiple sources of RF, depending on what features are built in and which ones you have enabled. So Wi-Fi is one, Bluetooth is another. If you have a cell modem in your computer, that would be a third. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are very common. They're in almost every laptop these days. And some companies like Dell are actually now releasing or soon releasing 5G laptops. So those will be communicating over the new 5G network that you've probably heard quite a bit about and that I gave a webinar about a month ago. So the 5G laptops will also be emitting that type of energy as well as the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Now that's one type of EMF. Another is called ELF, or extremely low frequency. ELF comes from your laptop's power source. It's emitted by any device that runs on power. The inner machinery of your laptop, like your computer, like your computer processor, emits ELF just by operating. So when it's on, it's emitting this stuff, whether or not you're connected to a Wi-Fi network. And your laptop, because of the size and how much work it's doing, tends to emit a lot more ELF than a cell phone. And it emits even more when it's plugged in and charging and running off of AC power. So as I say, in general, laptops emit much more of this ELF radiation than a cell phone. So those are the two types of EMF. There's a third force that I want to discuss, and that's heat. Because heat is also a damaging force. Heat causes something called the thermal effect. And if you read my email this week to my list, you saw I explained quite a bit about the thermal effect, especially as it relates to laptops. And I have a new post about that on the blog. See, everyone knows and recognizes that getting burned is bad for you. It kills your cells, and it takes time to heal. But a lot of people don't realize that even if you don't get burned, but your skin and your tissue is heated, the same type of damage can occur. So the cells can die, the DNA can be damaged, leading either to cell death or cell mutation. And these are the mechanisms by which diseases like cancer can form. And again, I want to reiterate, you don't even need to get burned. This damage can happen just by heating. And that's what the thermal effect is. So even if something doesn't emit enough heat to burn you, it can still do a lot of damage to your cells, and that damage can turn into disease. And because of all the machinery inside, and we all know this, laptops can get hot. They can get really hot, and they'll end up in a lot of cases emitting much more heat than a cell phone. So when comparing cell phones to laptops, laptops can emit more or less radio frequency, RF EMF. It depends on what you're actually using the device to do. They almost always emit more ELF, or extremely low frequency, because there's much more machinery. They run off of much more power. And generally, laptops are a bigger source of heat than a cell phone. So you have these three forces that you have to consider when you're talking about the health concerns related to laptops. And so it's the key point there is you have all of the same issues that people are concerned about with cell phones, right? They're all still directly relevant to laptops. All of the studies done into what cell phone radiation can do to your body, it's the same type of radiation of what your laptop is emitting. Both RF and ELF forms of EMF have been shown to cause numerous negative health effects, and the World Health Organization lists both as Class 2B carcinogens. Excessive heat, like I mentioned, from the bottom of your laptop, that's also a cause of the same type of damage. As we've just seen, laptops and cell phones emit the same type of radiation. So if you're concerned about your cell phone's radiation, you should definitely have the same concerns about your laptop's radiation. These negative health effects include immediate term conditions like fatigue and insomnia, as well as longer term and more significant health risks ranging from infertility to cancer. And there are a number of these health risks that are specific to using your laptop in your lap. And that's what we're about to look into here. So this is a major one. There's a very large and continually growing body of science linking EMF exposure to male infertility and subfertility. I want to be clear, this is male. because the location of men's reproductive organ cells it's on the outside of the body, and it's much more vulnerable to this type of damage than the reproductive cells of a woman. And I want to be clear also, at this point, this is really well-established science. So there's a ton of information, a lot of science now about cell phones and infertility, but there's also science about laptops and infertility, and Wi-Fi in particular. In one 2012 study, researchers found that 4 hours of exposure to Wi-Fi radiation, right? 4 hours, which that's only half a workday. In 4 hours, researchers found note, and I should say all I'm about to cover a bunch of different studies. The links to all of these studies will be in the ebook that you're going to be emailed right after this webinar. So you don't need to worry about that. You'll get the links to everything that I'm citing. So in one 2012 study, researchers found that 4 hours of exposure to Wi-Fi radiation from a laptop led to decreased sperm motility, which is a key indicator of sperm health, and a notable increase in the DNA fragmentation of sperm. What that means is the DNA was actually broken. That's a really serious outcome that you don't want to have happen, because then the sperm is no longer viable. Of note, researchers highlighted the fact that this damage to the sperm occurred even at what they call non-thermal levels, meaning it wasn't the heat that did this. It was the EMF radiation that yielded these outcomes. In a separate study in 2018 in Japan, the researchers found that Wi-Fi radiation kills sperm. The researchers divided the subjects into 3 groups. There was one group where the sperm was exposed to Wi-Fi. There was another group where the sperm was not exposed to Wi-Fi. And then there was a group in between, actually, where the sperm was exposed to Wi-Fi, but had an EMF protection shield in between. After just 2 hours, the group exposed to Wi-Fi radiation had half the quantity of viable sperm as the group with no exposure. The sperm that was protected by the EMF shield was in between. So it had more damage than the group that wasn't exposed, but less damage than the group that was exposed with no protection. So infertility is one class of health effects that are particularly associated with laptop emissions. Another is pregnancy. And there are many studies linking EMF exposure from cell phones to health outcomes of concern to pregnant women. So the infertility issues are specific to men. Obviously, the pregnancy concerns are specific to women. And among the top concerns are the elevated risk of miscarriage and birth defects. In a 2012 study, researchers found that pregnant women and their fetuses can be exposed to more EMF radiation from a laptop than from nearby high voltage power lines. So the fields, the EMF from the laptop, can induce currents, electromagnetic currents in the body 3 to 4 times higher than safety limits in the fetus, and 2 to 5 times higher than safety limits in the pregnant mother. Another study published in 2017 found that women who had a high level of EMF exposure had a 2.72, almost 3 times greater risk of miscarriage, which is obviously a tragic outcome. And it's at 2.72 times, that's a significantly elevated risk. There are even studies that demonstrate that EMF exposure in the womb can lead to health conditions in the child later in life. So there's one, again, I linked to it from the ebook, that showed a greater risk of development of asthma by the time the child turns 10, based on how much EMF they were exposed to in the womb. So even when EMF doesn't cause fatal damage, the health effects can linger throughout a child's life. Third class of health effects that I want to address: cancer. As many of you probably know, and as I've talked and written about a lot, there are numerous studies linking cell phone use to the formation of various types of cancer, including glioblastomas, which are a type of brain tumor, thyroid cancer, which is obviously a cancer of the thyroid, and even colorectal cancer, and that's associated to carrying the phone in your pocket. When it comes to cancer and laptops specifically, the body of science isn't yet substantial. So people do a lot more research into cell phones than into laptops. But again, we can make some educated guesses because, as I've mentioned, your laptop emits the same type of radiation that cell phones do. So it makes sense that the health risks are similar. But it's not just the EMF. I've mentioned this before, I want to reiterate it. It's also the heat, because laptops can get hot. They can get really hot. And we've all felt this. All that heat is more than just uncomfortable. It's a real health risk. In fact, and this was part of what I wrote about in the email that you all received earlier this week, all EMF regulations and safety limits in the United States and in most of the world are based around the thermal effect. In other words, wireless devices and cell phones, like cell phones and laptops, are supposed to be regulated so they do not emit so much EMF that they heat your body. These safety limits exist because everyone acknowledges that when human tissue is heated, DNA damage occurs. This is the same type of damage that can lead to disease outcomes, including cancer, as well as infertility and other classes of health risks. And I just want to reiterate, this is one of those things where there's no debate. You don't have some people saying, "Oh no, heat's okay for you." There's no debate. So when your laptop gets too hot and it's right against your body, that's a universally accepted risk to your health. So I know I just covered, a lot of information in a few slides. So to reiterate, we discussed first infertility, pregnancy, and cancer. And these are just three of the most concerning effects linked directly to laptop and Wi-Fi radiation exposure. As I mentioned, laptops emit the same type of EMF radiation as a cell phone. And cell phone radiation has been shown to cause numerous negative health effects, many of which I write about on my website. So laptops present the same wide range of risks as cell phones. I just covered three of the big ones here that have been particularly linked to laptops. And remember, children are even more vulnerable to the health risks and bodily damage that can result from these types of exposures. I talked about this at much more length in my last webinar 2 weeks ago about the health risks from EMF for children. So if you're interested in learning more, I'd recommend you can go check that out. The link is on our YouTube channel. But I highlight this here because so many children use laptops for their education, especially now with so many children homeschooling. So remember, it's even more important to protect children from these health risks because they are more vulnerable to the damage the types of damage that I've been talking about in this webinar, and actually that I talk about all the time, because the children are more vulnerable to damage from EMF radiation. So what can you do to reduce your health risks from a laptop? Now, well, I think you're about to see what I'm about to say. You already see what I'm about to say. But my approach to reducing your EMF exposure boils down to basically two classes of things. One is behavioral changes, and the second is the strategic use of high-quality EMF protection products. The behavioral changes are free, and so that's what we're going to start here by talking about. And one of the big things you can do is to use a wired connection. Wi-Fi is a big source of EMF emissions from your laptop. So when possible, use an Ethernet connection for internet access. And even if your laptop doesn't have an Ethernet port, because a lot of them don't anymore, mine, I'm on a MacBook, it does not, you can buy an adapter like the one that you see here, which will allow you to plug Ethernet into your USB port. So you can still use Ethernet when even on the computers that don't have Ethernet ports. Another thing you can do is disable the wireless connections when you're not doing them. So let's say you plug in the Ethernet connection, you then want to make sure you turn off your Wi-Fi. This is a link here to one of my healthy living tips about airplane mode on phones, but the same principles apply to your computer. So for example, like I said, if you're using the Ethernet to get your internet, turn off the Wi-Fi. Or if you're just working locally on your computer, let's say you're typing a document editing something in Photoshop and you don't need the internet, turn off the Wi-Fi. Similarly, if you're not using any Bluetooth devices, turn off the Bluetooth. There's no point in keeping this stuff on if you're not using it. It just adds your exposures without giving you any value. Remember, your laptop will still emit the ELF radiation that I talked about comes from the power source, but making these changes reduces the amount of RF radiation, thus reduces your cumulative exposure from the radiation from your laptop. So you want to make sure, these options are in your control. So you want to take advantage of that and use them to reduce your exposure. Another tip is, when possible, unplug your laptop, the power cord, when you're working on it. Now, this obviously isn't always possible. If your battery's running low, you need to be plugged in. But if you have the option, if you have enough battery life and you can work without being plugged in, unplug it, because you'll then have when your laptop is plugged into the power, the AC power, your laptop is emitting much more ELF radiation than when it's not plugged in. So, so you want to unplug your laptop when possible. So these are 3 actionable tips to make it safer to use your laptop. Use a wired connection, disable the Wi-Fi and or Bluetooth when possible, and unplug your computer from the wall when possible. And this brings me to the #1 thing that you can do to use your laptop more safely. Don't use your laptop on your lap. What you can do instead, it's very simple. It's once you know this stuff, it's very obvious. Put it on a desk. This is the #1 thing that you can do to make it safer to use your laptop. And it makes a huge difference, because remember, as I said earlier, the power of EMF diminishes exponentially with distance. So every inch matters. Just as you shouldn't use your cell phone against your head or carry it in your pocket or bra, the same applies for laptops. The further away you can keep your laptop when in use, the better. And to be clear, it is not just me who is saying this. Here is an excerpt from Dell's laptop manual. To avoid the possibility of exceeding the FCC radio frequency exposure limits, you should keep a distance of at least 20 centimeters between you and the antenna that's built into the laptop. Okay, 20 centimeters, that's 8 inches. This is how far Dell says to keep your thing they call a laptop away from your lap. That's also why it's so important to read the manuals. Because that's public information. It's in the manual. I link to it. I link to their online manual from my blog post about this. Now, there are some times when you want or need to use your laptop in your lap. For instance, if you're working on your laptop while you're traveling or commuting on the bus or subway, or if you prefer writing while curled up on your couch. In fact, this is even more common now, as so many of us are forced to work from home in areas that maybe aren't set up as workspaces, like your sofa. And it's for situations like this that I make my SYB laptop pad. So remember, I said when it comes to EMF protection, there's really two ways to respond. One is behavioral changes, and I outlined those. And the other is the strategic use of high quality, scientifically proven EMF protection products like my laptop pad. So to be clear, you shouldn't use your laptop in your lap. That's the absolute best protection. But when you do, my laptop pad makes it safer to do it. So you just place your laptop on top of the SYB laptop pad to deflect your laptop's EMF radiation and heat emissions away from your body and reproductive organs. And the laptop pad provides really outstanding shielding protectiveness. It's made from 2 layers, a plate of ferromagnetic steel and a sheet of conductive alloy, and it's wrapped in a durable PVC case. This is how it provides very powerful shielding against radio frequency, ELF, and heat. Remember, so it protects against all 3 of the forces that I outlined. And I'm just going to take a minute here and I think the volume might be a little loud, so you might want to adjust your speakers. It's the first time I'm loading a video into a webinar, so fingers crossed it goes okay, but it's just a very short video showing you how powerful the laptop pad is. Okay, great. Oh, now I'm big. Sorry, one sec. Okay, so start picking up from the video. It's slim and portable. It slips right into your bag. It's easy to use at home or carry with you on the go. It comes in two convenient sizes. There's one for laptops up to 14 inches, and there's one for laptops up to 17 inches. It fits basically every computer on the market. And it's available generally, until today actually, it's available in two colors, and it's one of my most popular products. And like with all of my products, comes with free shipping, a lifetime warranty, and 30-day returns. I try to do everything I can to make this as risk-free a decision for you as possible. So if you or anyone in your family uses a laptop on your lap or on your stomach or anywhere near your body, you should get my laptop pad. And today, for this webinar only, I'm going to make a special offer, as I promised. And I don't make offers this big usually anymore. But if you order today, and this will work until midnight tonight Pacific time, so it gives you a little time after this webinar to take care of this. But if you use the discount code PADNOW at checkout, you can save 25% off my laptop pad. And I just want to reiterate, that's only for those of you who are here in the room. If someone's watching this as an archive, this code will not work. I also have a special announcement today, as I teased in the emails leading up to this. For the first time, we've made a jet black vegan leather laptop pad. This is made with vegan leather instead of PVC. It's really attractive, and this is limited edition. I only made a very small number of these, and it's only available in the 17-inch model. And because there's so few of them, it's only available in the US. So no matter where you are in the world, the coupon will work on all of my laptop pads, but this new style that I'm launching right now is only available in the United States. And the same discount, the same 25% discount applies if you order it now. Actually, it's more than a 25% discount on this model, because starting tomorrow, this version of my laptop pad is going to cost more money than my regular laptop pad. But tonight for you, I've put it out at the same price. So really, you're getting 40% off of this version. I want to remind everybody, and we're about to jump into Q&A, but I want to remind everybody that once the archive of this webinar is complete, you'll get a copy of this ebook, What's My Laptop Doing to Me, delivered straight to your inbox. Has a lot of the same information I covered in this webinar, but it includes more detail and links to a lot of the studies that I talked about. And you'll get a copy delivered to your inbox as soon as the archive of the webinar is ready. So with that, I want to first off thank all of you for turning out today, and we'll go into questions. And for those of you who don't know yet, you might have seen we have Stephanie here in the room who will be helping me. She might be answering your questions in text even as I'm going through them. Okay, so Mark asks, is the laptop pad enough to continue to use it on your lap, or should you have more of an air gap? There's more to the question, so let me come. So my answer to that is always to use your laptop as far away as you possibly can, because the distance matters for the reasons I talked about in the webinar. So you want to keep the laptop as far away from your body as possible. No matter how far away the laptop is from your body, the laptop pad will still prevent the radiation from coming from the bottom of your laptop. But you definitely want to create as much space as you possibly can. Are the pads oversized for a 13-inch laptop for a reason? Does it help to protect from the sides more? Well, the reason is we only did 2 sizes, and this helps us kind of cater to the most number of people possible. So that's how, with 2 sizes. So that's how the sizes were determined. But does it help protect from the sides more? The answer is yes, because of the direction that the radiation is emitted. So the more oversized a pad is, the more protection you will actually be getting. Thank you, Mark. I just realized, I'm putting my camera back on. Kathleen asked, does the laptop protector pad have a lifetime guarantee? The answer is yes. Thank you, Kathleen. Yes, all my products at SYB include a lifetime warranty. Michael asks, any thoughts, comments about Exubi stickers? I've never used them. I can't really comment on them. I will say, with any EMF protection product or any product that claims to provide EMF protection, you want to check the science. Does the science support what the product claims are? So for instance, with mine, all my products, we have lab test results posted. I just showed you the video of ways that you can test for yourself. I include an ebook. So my products make measurable, demonstrable claims. They're backed up by laboratory data, and I explain how you can check and verify my product claims for yourself. Thank you, Michael. Dane asks, what are the best EMF meters to use? So I have Stephanie already gave you the link. So great. For anyone who's listening in the archive, I have an ebook in which I make a few different meter recommendations. And if you're watching that, you can download it. Go to shieldyourbody.com/test. And there you can just get the free ebook. And in there, I have recommendations for 3 meters. I actually also call out 3 meters you should avoid. And I think that's a great place to start. Thank you, Dane. Emerson says, what's the minimum distance to be living away from, basically from cell towers? There's no simple answer to that. In general, the further away you are, the safer. But remember, the cell towers are just one of the sources of EMF radiation in your life. So as you get further away from cell towers, you might be closer to something else. It also matters how your house is wired in terms of the EMF that's just coming out of the electrical wiring in your home. And increasingly, if you live in a city, you just can't get that far away from a tower. They're popping up everywhere. I'm staying in a place right now. If I go out to the balcony, I see about 20 different cell towers, and that's just within line of sight. So I wish I had a better answer for you than that. I mean, you can look at, if you're a half mile away, that's much safer than being 100 feet away. But it's getting increasingly difficult to create those types of distances because of the number of cell towers. Thank you, Emerson. Andrew asks if desktop computers are safer alternatives to using a laptop. That's a really great question. I probably should do a slide on that next time I give this talk. Desktop computers, well, they're going to emit the same types of radio frequency, generally in roughly the same power levels, right? Because the Wi-Fi is going to do the same thing on a laptop that it would on a desktop, same for Bluetooth. Desktops tend to have much more machinery, and so can require more power. and that means they'll emit more ELF, but they'll be further away. No one ever works with their desktop on their lap. So, and because, and not only do not people not use it that way, you don't have to, a laptop has the keyboard built in. Actually, that's another thing I can add when I give this talk again. If you use an external keyboard with your laptop, then you can create some more distance. But a lot of people use their keyboard, the keyboard's built into the laptops, which means there's, even if it's not in your lap, there's only a certain amount of distance that you can create. Whereas with desktop computers, you can keep those things much further away. Desktops aren't safer than laptops implicitly, except they are in how you end up using them. Because of the distance that's created. I hope I explained that. That's a really good question, and I think I might update the slide deck next time I give this talk. Thank you, Andrew. Jay asked, do EMF shielding gloves protect while using a laptop? Do I know any? Yes, they do. The only supplier for those that I know is Less EMF. So if you go to LESS, you know what, I'm just going to type it here in the comments, but if anyone's watching it on replay, you go to lessemf.com, and it's there on their site. They have gloves, and those work. Yes, thank you, Jay. Leon asks, is the 5G phone shield the same like the laptop pad? No, because the laptop pad is it's made with those two layers of thick metal. Well, it has a sheet of alloy followed by a plate of ferromagnetic steel. So it's designed to withstand much greater shielding needs, because the laptop in general will emit much more of this stuff than a cell phone. And am I going to make mobile phone cases? All I can say to that is stay on my list, and you'll hear when I make new products. Thank you, Leon. Kathleen asks, will the laptop protection protect from EMF forever? That's a really great question, and it's one I should start covering a bit more, because I actually get this question a lot. Shielding works forever as long as it's properly cared for. So there are certain things that require maintenance, like discharging. EMF shielding, the type of EMF shielding that I make and sell does not. So yes, it will work indefinitely as long as it's properly cared for, and that's why I offer a lifetime warranty on all of my products. Thank you, Kathleen. Roseanne asks, how much do the pads weigh? I think that's listed on the website, but if not, I'll double check and we should add it. The 14-inch pad is about 1 1/3 pounds, and the 17-inch pad is just under 2 pounds. Thank you, Roseanne. Carolyn asks, how much radiation comes from the screen and top keyboard area? So this is one of those things where there's no fixed answer, because everyone has different types of laptops, and different components are in different parts of different laptops. You know, on some, the Wi-Fi antenna is in the monitor, and others, it's in the speaker. You know, so there's no fixed answer. And this is one of those times where I'm going to emphasize something I tell people all the time, which is it's really smart. If EMF is a concern of yours, and if you're here in this room right now, I'm going to assume that it is, you really want to learn how to test, and you want to invest in a decent EMF meter and test for yourself. And it's then not only will you be able to answer that question, you'll be able to find where all the sources in your life are, and what, you know, how to adjust your furniture, right? Because not everything is about shielding. If you find a spot in your house that has high levels, you can start by just moving your furniture away from that spot, so you're getting less of the exposure. It's amazing. Testing is such a powerful tool in terms of minimizing your exposure. So, but Carolyn, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a more specific answer, but it really will vary based on which type of laptop you're using and what you're doing on that laptop at that time. Thank you, though. That's a good question. Mary asks, is desktop always the better choice for a home office? I think I answered that. And the reason is the distance you can create, but there are ways that you can use your laptop at a further distance by plugging in an external keyboard and mouse. So really the difference is how far away can you keep it. So it's not that desktops are better or worse, it's just that they're easier in general to keep further away, but you can also set up your laptop so that it works that way. Thank you, Mary. Kathleen asks if the laptop can be damaged by water or other substances. No, it's waterproof. Thank you, Kathleen. Harriet, I don't quite understand that question. If you want to email us at hello@shieldyourbody.com, and you can just ask the question there and try to get some more information from you to try to answer it. Thank you. Mark asks, will the new version be released as a 14-inch and be made internationally in the future? It looks great. Thank you, Mark. If it's feedback like that, I definitely have to consider it. Right now, it's just a limited edition. It's just the 17-inch, and it's just in the United States. But I appreciate that feedback. I'll definitely take it under consideration. Thank you, Mark. Emerson asks, where do I get my glasses from? Are those similar to the kids' ones we sell? SYB doesn't actually sell glasses. These are Oakley frames. If anyone wants what is R wearing, what brands does R support? No, I like Oakley, so I wear Oakley frames, but they're not blue light glasses. We don't make or sell blue light glasses. Thank you, Emerson. Tara asks a question. I'm going to come back to that. Michael asks, if the pad protects 99% of EMF, what about the remaining 1%? Why not 100%? So it can protect up to these levels, right? Because whenever you're talking about EMF shielding, anyone who tells you that they're blocking 100% of all frequencies under all circumstances, I've yet to see technology that can do that. So that's just, it's based on a limitation of EMF shielding technology. If I could make a product that shielded 100% of radiation in all circumstances, please trust that I would. It's just the nature of EMF shielding. Thank you, Michael. James asks, what do I use on my router and laptop? Well, on my laptop, I use my laptop pad, and I use it on a desk, actually, because my legs go. So even though I don't use my laptop in my lap, I still use the laptop pad because my legs go under the desk. And so I still use the laptop pad, even though I don't use my laptop in your lap. For a Wi-Fi router, I covered this in one of my other webinars. The best things you can start with the Wi-Fi router are moving it as far away from where you and your family spend your time and turning it off when it's not in use, like when you go to sleep. Beyond that, I do sell a product. It's called my picture frame. It's in the home office category on my website. And you put the SYB picture frame next to your Wi-Fi router in the direction you want to shield. And that will help reduce the amount of Wi-Fi radiation that you're exposed to. Thank you, James. Leon, thank you. I appreciate that. Nikki asked, what EMF testing device do I recommend? I see that Stephanie's answered. Again, for anyone watching the archive, though, go to shieldyourbody.com/test. You can get an ebook there with my meter recommendations. Thank you. Christina asked, does the texture of the vegan versus the vegan leather versus the non-vegan leather laptop pad affect grip factor for laptops? No, not really. They're both pretty good on that front. Thank you, Christina. So it's about the same is my answer. Mary asked, does a 4K TV emit ELF? The answer is all TVs emit ELF. Everything emits, everything that runs on power emits ELF. And if it runs off of AC power, meaning you plug it into the wall, it definitely emits more ELF. This is another example of why a good reason to test for yourself, because that'll help you determine how much of this is actually coming off your TV, which parts of your TV are you getting more radiation emissions from, because it can really vary quite a bit on the same television device. So I really recommend getting a meter, and make sure it's one that can measure ELF, because a lot of the meters will just measure RF. There's one of the meters in my ebook that I recommend that measures both ELF and RF. Thank you, Mary. Okay, Tara asks, I recently ordered the baby blanket, but it seems like I'm still feeling the EMFs when I wrap my phone in it when I sleep. Is the blanket as protective as the pad or phone case? And does the pad absorb the heat? I'm wondering how the heat affects us. Okay. Um, because I can feel the heat through the blanket. Thanks. So Tara, yes, the baby blanket is not a heat protection device. The laptop pad is, and that comes because it's made of very different materials. It's very different thickness as well. And the blanket being a blanket is it's not designed to shield from heat. Now, when you ask, is it as protective as the pad, or is the blanket as protective as the pad or the phone case? They're very different because they're designed to be used differently. So you talk about, for example, you wrapping your phone in the blanket, and that's not something we recommend. And this gets into some other topics, which I'll talk about in a different webinar. But when you fully wrap your phone in EMF shielding, the phone actually so what you're doing is you're interfering with the phone signal. And the way the phone reacts to that is by boosting the power of its transmission to compensate for the interference of the signal. And that will then lead it to consume more power, to drain the battery more rapidly, and to get hotter. So that's why you're seeing that result. That's why, for example, my phone pouch, which I think I have here, same for the way the 5G phone shield is designed to be used, and it's the same. Oh, for how my laptop pad is designed to be used, right? They're all designed to shield on one side only, and that's to deflect radiation in a specific direction away from your body, but without fully wrapping the device. Because once you fully wrap the device is going to respond in unpredictable ways. So better option would be to put your phone into airplane mode when you go to bed rather than wrapping it in a baby blanket. I hope I've answered that question. Again, you can email us hello@shieldyourbody.com, and we're happy to provide more detail, because I do talk about that quite a bit, and I do have some posts on the blog that we could point you to. Thank you, Tara. John asks, when will EMF RF meters be on the market for 5G frequencies? This is a really good question, because, well, it's not a simple question, but it's a really good one. So 5G can technically go up to 300 gigahertz. But the current 5G deployments are not supposed to yet go anywhere near that. The current 5G deployments are supposed to be under 6 gigahertz. So they start at the 4G frequencies, and now they're just starting to allocate some higher chunks of the spectrum, so they can go up to 6 gigahertz. There are a couple of meters that go up to 8 gigahertz. So there are a couple of meters that you can buy right now that will work to measure 5G radiation. I know of 3, but I only remember one off the top of my head. And it's one I think I talk about in the ebook, but I don't actually recommend it because it's so expensive. But I have it, and it's a fantastic meter, and it's called the TESS 593. TES 593. It's available for sale on Amazon. Last I checked, it's about $500. I also know of a less expensive one, but I don't remember it offhand. So if you want to email us, hello@shieldyourbody.com, happy to give you those links. But yes, there are some meters that right now that you can buy that will be measuring the current 5G deployments. In terms of when, in the future, when they roll out and start consuming higher frequency chunks of the 5G spectrum, I don't know when more meters will be out, but I'm positive they will be. Companies, like Trifield, I'm sure are working on it, and it'll happen. But thank you, John. Really good question. And I get the only question left is Harriet's, and so Harriet, again, if you want to just email in hello@shieldyourbody.com, I'll try to answer it for you. For everyone else, I want to thank you so much for coming out, making time to spend with me and to learn about, a little bit about EMF and laptops and what you can do to protect yourself. One final reminder that this 25% discount on the laptop pad, this is valid with this coupon code PAD NOW. So write it down. Even if you're not buying it right now, write it down. PADNOW, PADNOW. It's valid until midnight Pacific time. So that gives you about 10 hours. And after that, this coupon will go away. And I actually don't remember the last time I did a 25% off sale. I haven't done that for the last webinars I did. This is a big discount. So if you're interested in the laptop pad, this is a really good opportunity to get it. As soon as the archive, the recording of this webinar is done, the recording will be emailed to you along with the ebook that I've mentioned, that has all the links and all the information I've been talking about here. So with that, everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more updates from me. Thank you very much for coming out today. Have a great day.